Oh, hey there, we're back again. And I just finished breakfast. I'm all yummied up. So, not only do I have diabetes, but I also have this thing from it's amazing. As you get older, you realize how much we're just like your parents, except you're kind of this DNA. So, what's really interesting, my parents both had good and bad things to their health. And I basically got all the worst. My dad died at 98, never having a cavity, right? Never going to the dentist ever, right? My mom, she had cottage cheese for teeth. So I said, I got cottage cheese. And when my mom ran Roosevelt Hospital in the 30s, so she knew every medical person in New York City. The guy who invented implants, he said, hey, well, I owe you a couple papers. Why don't you let me um, have you be a guinea pig for my new thing I'm inventing called implants. Replace your teeth with implants. So my mom, she said sure because her teeth were like in her 30s were already falling out of her head, and she didn't want false teeth because they're no fun. So she let him do it. So the first teeth that he put in her head were stainless steel. So she looked like a James Bond villain. My friends were scared to come to my house because my mom, and she had to make her two canine teeth look like vampire teeth. They were very prominent, pointed. They were scary, right? And so I have everything my mom had. She had diabetes, she had neuropathy, she had charcoal legs, she had the same thing. On the other side, my dad had blood issues, and I have the same. But again, not as bad as my parents had, but I still have them. So he had this other thing called hypoglycemia, which is kind of the opposite of diabetes. So it's truly amazing to have both diabetes and the opposite of diabetes. And one of the things, um, it can affect your emotions. So if you don't eat, your blood sugar doesn't say well, then you kind of get antsy. So that's why I kind of wanted to eat my breakfast without you watching because I was, you know. So anyway, here it is, 2 minutes and 33 seconds into our show of The Old Crone Told Me There's No Place to Hide. And good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, it's welcome home. And remember, I am your griot, your Sensei Alba, here at your channel of Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Alba. And this channel is not for children. We do not use profanity because last once in a while something slips out. But primarily, we don't use it because my grandma always said profanity was a sign of an illiterate person. She didn't say good, bad, or indifferent. She just said illiterate. My grandma really, because she brought me up from, babyhood till about 7. And then until I really was out the door, or her door. I was always out of my parents' door. But, and it was always, she read a lot, right? And so she always wanted to use the correct word, right? The perfect word. And so she got me into etymology. And that's kind of what, the study. Let's see. What does Google say? Okay. What is the study of words and where they came from?
Etymology. Here's a summary from Wikipedia. Etymology is the study of the history of words. The phrase etymology of means the origin of the particular word.
Right? Etymology. That's it. Right? Where it came from. Right? Let's see. Where it's derivation, where Alamon, Etymon, etom, cognate, Cognate. So anyway, that was my grandma. She was always cognitive of where the words came from, etymology, right? And so, and when you use the best word you can think of for the sentence you're using, instead of the prejudicial, when I say prejudice, all I'm talking about is you use the coronavirus of your opinion, right? And so, I just use that term coronavirus because it's coming into, the cognitive of the body politic, and that China is having this little issue, and they've closed down two, neck of the woods is in China that have a population of Texas, LA, and New York combined, right? So they just don't let anyone in and out of that area, right? So, which is a good thing. They're being, because with air travel, their little coronavirus has already left the building. It's been seen in Europe, it's seen in the United States, and people are being very aware of it, which is all very good. It's a lot easier to take care of something at the beginning than at the end. So you can be stepping up to it right off the bat, but it just shows the potential, right? Now the potential of having a world pandemic like the Spanish flu. Oh, Twitchy. Hey, girlfriend. I haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? You doing good? I hope you're doing good. I'm hanging in there. Out there in the deep green. I'm at my IHOP office, and I hope everything's doing great with the kid. But we're talking about there's no place to hide, right? So you have to live every day in every way to bring the peace to your world, right? And how you deal with folk, your emotional state, all the above, how things affect you. Moment at work to listen, type up proposals. Good. Keep typing those proposals. So you're getting any insights on how to write? If you could, through your experience there, and that, education. We were talking about etymology, where words come from. Education means to learn, to understand, to know through experience. So through your experience at this job, you learn how to write grants. You can have your own little, that's an unlicensed, uncertified thing. You don't have to get any certificates and college degrees, but if you get the experience to write, grants, you can do pretty good. I did that with a friend of mine in the 70s and 80s when I was in D.C. And my buddy, he worked at the patent library. So we had access to unbelievable information. I mean, the internet was there in the 70s and 80s, in a network. Not the high-rise issues seem pretty dry, so these things are right up my alley. Well, and you don't, to write a 501c3 proposal for getting a grant is not having to write a novel, but it's a stylistic thing. You want some more pancakes? And that's how people, how we did so well with writing grants was we were right in the thick of it. We were just, down the street from K Street and J Street and E Street were all the people who were giving out money. And we went and had drinks with them and talked to them and find out what they were looking for, what they wanted to fund. And then we would go find people who kind of fit that category, and then we would write. It's just like writing a paper for a professor. Professor gives you his assignment. He wants you to write a thing about Crimean Wars, right? Well, you write that down, and then you go on your little, Google and say Crimean Wars. You look at everything Google has to say. Certain things pop out at you. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. What about this? So then you write those down and you try to put it into a cognitive line of thought as a thesis, and then you go to your professor, like within the day or two that your professor has given you the assignment, and you go, so I'm interested in this. What do you think? As a topic, a thesis on the paper you assigned. And the guy goes, well, it's not even close. Oh, no, that's it. I didn't think of that. Oh, well, you should read this book, and this book, right? So you go again on your Google, go look at those books, see what they say, see what interesting quotes, usually if the book is old enough, the whole thing will be online, and then you get that information. And again, you write an outline of what you want to write. The next day, you go to your professor and say, so what do you think of this? And the guy goes, oh, that's good. No, that sucks. Don't do this, do that, do this. And then your professor will give you all the insights that, your professor has on the paper you want to do. Then you go and write your first rough draft. Come back with that. What do you think of this? Oh, this is good. This sucks. So try and focus on this. Oh, you should read this book. Go look at that. And then you write another rough draft, right? So you now, you've got 2 weeks to do this paper. You're now on your 5th day since the assignment, right? And you've got your 3rd rough draft. What do you think of this? And he goes, well, you're getting closer, and fix this, do that, do this. You write another rough draft, and because you got a little laptop and all this information, it's all on your toolbar. You can just keep going and going and going, keep going back and back and back until you get to perfect paper. And it's like not even a week done, and it's all done. And you're the first person that person has seen. Your professor has seen doing this paper, right? You just let your professor write the paper for you, right? And of course, he goes, this is great, A+, right? And you're the first one, so he's not tired of it. He's not upset. He's not disgusted with the pitifulness of the rest of the morons. And then you now have a week and 3 days to go have a good time instead of these chuckleheads who are getting drunk every night and worrying about it and, drinking more because they're worrying about it. Well, you've done it. Now you got a week and 3 days to go have a good time, right? And you got an A+. And Twitchy, that's how you write. You write proposals. You figure out what the people want to hear. When I worked in a corporate thing, they want the truth. They just wanted to hear what they wanted to hear. Now there were, so I would always write 2 things: the things that the general guys wanted to hear, and then the truth that the boss, the CEO, the guys on the board of directors, they wanted to know the truth. So I would have 2 copies for both, right? So that's how you kind of go at it. Yep, save this one, right? And all you new students, you freshmen, right? The thing is to get a 4.0 your first semester, because the rest of your college career will be, divided into that 4.0. So you could be brain dead for the next 3 years and still come out with a B. So anyway, back to, you can't hide. Well, I'm always holding up, things can always be worse, and I'm always happy with what it is, and the universe always takes care of me. It's been, been out in the deep green, but I'm 30 miles in either direction to 2 college towns. I have cadres in both of them, and it's sad that this is one crew who wants an intentional community. Well, I said, hey, I have a farm, not me, but I know of a farm where these people want to put it in a 501c3, nonprofit intentional community. They just want to be kind of taken care of. But, you can own that. You can do whatever you heck. Custis County, there are no building codes. You can do whatever you want. And I brought them, I showed it to them on photographs, and they were like, I don't know. But you've been saying you wanted intentional, you were saving money to buy property. Well, here's somebody who's going to give you 60 acres that have 10 buildings on it, and power and a well and water and septic, and you could go right to it, and they got animals, and they've got a farm of 20 acres that they have been growing organically for 30 years. How about that? I don't know. Oh, but I have this job at Walmart. So I can't. You grow your own food. You sell it. And there's, in 20 miles away, there's a farmer's market where they could probably make more money, because that's what the people who lived on this farm did, right? For 30 years, they retired in their 50s and bought this farm, and lived off the grid. I mean, it's all prepared. They got windmills and photo things and water source and really. And these people, I don't know. And those folks are actually hiding from what they could really be doing. And now I support everybody. So I've seen these folks, and they're kind of cool kids. They're between the ages of 25 and 32. They've kind of all gone to college, and they've all got certain skill sets that they're not really being paid for. And a number of them are trying to do, they're working for nonprofits, but those nonprofits are useless, and they're not ready to step out on their own. I don't know. Well, that window of opportunity is shrinking. In a few days, as of next, I think a week from this Sunday will be the first of when is the 1st of February. Let's see. Oh, the 1st of February is Saturday, a week from Saturday, right? And so as of a week from Saturday, we will be down to 11 months of, the window of opportunity. And that doesn't mean that opportunity will end, because in scarce times, that's when opportunity gets, and we're heading for scarce times, our economic deficits are going through the roof, thanks to the carrot head, giving the rich $1 trillion tax relief and spending $2 trillion on defense. We have 17 aircraft carrier battle groups. That's a gigantic big aircraft carrier with like 200 attack aircraft, and then 10 Aegis destroyers and a submarine and a this and a that. We have 17 of those. Those are like floating military bases, attack bases. And we have over 900 bases all around, we have bases all around Russia. We have bases all around China. We have bases all around Iran. What are we scared of? Russia spent $60 billion. We spent $2 trillion. They spent $16 billion. China spent $40 billion, right? So no, we have nothing. Russia has a gross domestic product smaller than Texas. These countries are not a threat. Now they're acting a lot smarter. They're doing things to, threaten us by, on the cheap, on the internet, and they're not, putting battle groups, in Cuba. No, they put one airplane in Venezuela. I mean, no. So what do we got to be scared of? We're scared of ourselves. We are Rome. We have expanded our empire globally, right? There are 3 levels of what's going on. There is what's going on every day. Now, the stuff I just explained to you, what you're doing at school, paying your bills, etc., right? The stuff going on around you every day that you can see, But even underneath that, like virtually whatever little town you're in, whatever city you're in, whatever state you're in, all of your politicians are corrupt. They take the envelope, they go to the secret club where they're doing, go look up Ben Franklin's Satan Club, no, Hellfire. He had why the French came in on our side is he went, first went Jefferson. He was so boring, right? And then Benjamin Franklin went, who was like, the rock star, Carl Sagan, Albert Einstein, kind of smartest guy in the room. And he started a nightclub called the Hellfire Club, where men went in one door and women went in the other door. They took all their clothes, put on fancy, went out, and had a wild time. Did drugs, danced, had sex, drank, food, and that was his nightclub. That was our founding father, our more interesting founding father, my favorite founding father. So that has been the base form of our Politico, right? And then you have to realize who was the first white guy that has been advertised. Mr. You know, Christopher Columbus, right? And he was a dumbass, and he came across some maps showing, oh, look, there's this other place just over there, and it's on the way to India, and maybe I'll figure out a quick way. He convinced the Spanish broad, but she was a smart girl. She knew about that. She studied her Plato. Plato talked all about it. All the Greeks talked all about it. And all the secret societies knew all about it, Atlantis and all the above, right? And so, and they understood what the Tower of Babel was. Babylon was, you have to realize that the story that we are always told is a lie. Everything you're here, don't believe a word I say. But the politicians, the religions, the bankers, the schools, all lies to support this hidden hand, this powers that shouldn't be, the sock puppets, right? So our politicians are sock puppets. They take the envelope full of money, they go to the club where they do really amazingly horrific, poorly judged things, having sex with animals, and they get videotaped. And then, that's, all our, go look at Willie. Slick Willie. What was really slick was his Willie. Why did they put him as president? Because he had a slick Willie. And they said Monica Lewinsky, she was a plant, and she had a person who was her handler. So when Slick Willie spilled his seed on Monica's dress, her handler put it in an evidence bag. So she had Slick Willie's DNA. So I did not have sex with that woman, she had a dress that had his seed on it. So that's why he couldn't, he lied and lied and lied. And then the evidence came out. And that lady worked for the CIA. CIA is not our friend, Mostly it's, end of World War II, the Nazis, and Germany was bombed once again into the Stone Age. And the Nazis won the war. They brought 70,000 Nazis to our government. Our CIA, the brothers took it hook, line, and sinker. They were Nazis, Prescott Bush, Nazi, Mr. Rockefeller, Nazi, Henry Kissinger was part of the, Operation Paperclip. Does he sound like he comes from the Southwest or New Jersey? No. Forget about it. Yes, you're distracting yourself with school until society breaks down. So, you can always go back to school. Now, if you are in your senior year, Twitchy, finish up, get your diploma. But if you're still in your beginning of your sophomore year, beginning of your junior year, you might stick around. But again, you should, when you go to school, it's not going to the class, taking the test that counts. That school has many resources. There's a friend of mine, so she came from, a downtrodden, yellow. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm at a place where I'm 300 miles, and I'm living in a tent in a forest, and it's called being homeless. You're going to experience that soon. You're just, I'm just in training. I'm learning how to. We had a tornado go right through our mountain range, so I learned how to. Oh no, yeah, I'm serious. Yeah, our weather. Haven't you noticed how our weather is getting a little strange? And we're not forget global warming. It's the ice age that you should be. I'd be happy to have global warming. I'd be happy if it was 70 degrees right now. It's 30 degrees right now. Last night it was. Have you ever slept in a tent when it's 8 degrees Fahrenheit? Well, I've been doing that for the last 2 months, and I'm still alive. So when I come back, so you see where, do you have my account up? So when's my next appointment?
Okay, so far. At least we can make jokes.
No, I changed it. I actually called up the day. Yeah, I rescheduled. I was a good boy. I actually traveled 40 miles to be able to have a phone call to tell you I wasn't going to make it. That's what kind of how much I respect you. I took $6, meaning I live on $300 a month, and I took six of that dollars to come and call you. hmm Right. Right. So I'm just doing that because my eyes have been actually pretty good, and I thought I'd skip a month to give a benchmark of seeing how my eyes are doing. You know what I mean? Okay. And I will bring how much? At $30. I'll bring $30 with me. Okay. You too. And hey, you should do some camping in the winter just to get ready. Put a put. Well, when the electricity goes off and there's no food in the supermarket and there's no place to get gasoline for your car, you got to do a little bit more than hang out. I love you and God bless. Okay. Bye bye. So I just let you experience that. Didn't give too much secret information away, but that's one of my doctors, and I see them every 90 days or so, and I call them up. I actually last time I talked to you guys, I did it so I could call them up and tell them, hey, I'm not going to make it. And so that person said, oh, you missed it. And I said, no, look at the desk. I said, oh, yeah, you called up and rescheduled. Yes. I mean, it's like the other day when I tried to go buy some test strips for my blood metering machine, right? Now, those people give me a little thing of 100 of those test strips, $4. That's kind of what it costs, right? The corporate healthcare company wanted $42 for 10 strips, right? And when I said, hey, what are you nuts? And I kept going up them, and they had 6 people behind the pharmacy thing, and none of them knew what to do. They didn't know where anything was. Ooh, is Grandma really getting the drug she's supposed to? And there was a sign underneath that said, "Make sure you're getting the correct opiates." But there was a sign right there, not saying, "Oh, opiates are bad." Make sure you get the correct ones. So, Twitchy, you worry about being in school. You're a junior for a couple of years now. Been a junior for a couple of years. Well, we've been a junior for a couple of years now. You might as well take a sabbatical because you can always go back, But while you're there, and this goes for any situation you're in, whatever job you have, whatever relationship you're in, whatever, make sure you get the most out of it. Even every day and every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger, Hey, Phil, good to see you, buddy. I said, why in the world are you in a tent right now? Because I live on less than $400 a month, and Mr. Mnuchin is because they've given a $2 trillion tax write-off to the rich in the corporate world. They're planning to cut, Social Security, even though, see, they keep talking about Social Security as being a gift, but it's not. You pay for it. It's a savings plan. So they're planning to, and they have been, Social Security still has money in the piggy bank. And they have been the Treasury has been taking money out. One of the ways they paid for the Iraq and Afghani war was by taking money out of those trust funds, right? So they have been, screwing the general public for, since the beginning, since Christopher Columbus showed up, and the Queen of Spain gave him 3 crappy boats, and neither Pinta and forget about it. And she gave him crews from jail, expendable people. These were, and she said, and So they kind of scrolled around the Atlantic. They knew how to float their boat and knew how to navigate. They could have gone from Spain to Hispaniola, where they landed, which was basically a place that got hit by the hurricane. Oh, people are calling me up. Oh, there's Dave. Hey, Dr. Dave. How you doing, buddy? Oh, I'm at my IHOP office. I'm out in the woods. My IHOP office. I'm doing a live chat, and I'm basically I checked out Hawaii, right? And I checked out Hawaii, right? And they don't want people who don't belong there. They only want the rich, right? So they have really constrained their welfare entity, and there's no real, everything's expensive, and mhm. No, right. And the other thing is, I'm looking for a community. So the after that, so I looked in Hawaii for intentional communities, right? And they don't really have any. They have gated communities, where the rich, yeah, a lot of those. But so then I started looking around, and there used to be some really great gated community, intentional communities like the farm and others, and there still are a few. So I checked into them, and I'm investigating them. And those folks are. It's like how the internet. People on their social media little loops, they just constantly get refed the same thing over and over again, right? So that's these intentional communities of that. They're not looking like there's just a couple really big ones, and I, contact. Hey, I'm interested in you guys. They contact me back. So who are you? I showed them, I gave them my, I've done all this, I've done all that. You can go onto my YouTube and you'll definitely see what kind of guy I am. You can go on my X-Rated and see what I write. I got all this experience. And most of them came back and said, well, oh, you're too far away. I said, not really. I'm like within 200 miles, at least 4. They're all on the East Coast, right? And they've been there 40 years and they have a process that works for them. So I said, I'm a team player. I don't want to change anything, But I did say to these 3 that were like, well, I don't know. I said, so why don't you try and take what you do and bring it forth? I mean, if this isn't the time that America needs more of what you got, what is, right? And they've all pretty much said, I don't think we can do that. We just want to, batten down the hatches and, just save ourselves. And, that wouldn't be a place for me. So, but they're all kind of kidding themselves because all 3 of these things are within 60 miles of a city like Philly or New York City or Washington, D.C. So if they don't diversify, if they don't spread out into the real hinterland, they'll be, the living dead will just walk over them and eat their lunch, So anyway, that's what I've been looking at. That's what I've been talking about. And I've been, so I have my, people in positions of power, and they take me out to lunch and slip me a Benjamin every now and then. So the other day, one of those guys, he's a Supreme Court judge for the state, and he took me out to lunch because he loves to talk to me because I have an open mind. I tell him things that he needs to know. He watches my channel anyway. So we were talking, and he basically said that things aren't as bad as they're pretty much just the way they've always been. They're just being advertised as worse to get right. And everyone gets, like I said, stuck in their loop. They just keep being fed. Oh, if you don't like black people are the worst. If you don't like white people are the worst. It's like, and anybody who tries to find some commonality, doesn't like me. I mean, the people who watch me go, I can't believe you only have 300, subscribers. Of course, the algorithm doesn't put me at the. So where did you go? Where did you go see? Where did you go play with? Hmm. Oh, the bullfight.
Touch the bull and tell the story to live about.
Hmm.
Tell the story. So it was interesting to think, but I don't think I'll do this again because I don't like this. How they play with the animals. So anyhow, I went to see that. That's the main reason I went to Costa Rica. Then I went to, what's the next country? Costa Rica up there. It's
Guatemala,
Nicaragua.
Nicaragua.
I went to Nicaragua. It's a very interesting place. They have socialism in place, so there's no class. There's no big difference in class, and people are kind of happy and easy going in. Nobody is out to get you to try to steal a buck from you. No, you do it. But still, it's pretty nice. So next door is Honduras, which has always been capitalist country. There's more hustle and bustle, and people are more likely to scam you. And but it was nice trip, man. It was really nice.
Well, it's a nice place. Any place in the, I said, that neck of the woods is very pleasant. It's warm. It's green. It's all right. So
And I'll be going again soon because I like.
are you thinking about looking for a place to set up a base of operation, to retire to?
Yeah, you got it. So I'm looking for a place. I'm getting old. I need to find. That's one of the reasons I'm going to those places. And so yes, exactly. That's great.
Right. So why were the powers that be so hostile to Nicaragua? I mean, they have no real resources, right, for them to steal. There's no oil or diamonds or gold, right?
So really, that's a good question. But their president, I don't know. Of course, remember Daniel Ortega. He was the
Right. He was a revolutionary guy. Yeah, he was there.
The US invaded, CIA invaded,
Right.
and he was the leader. So now he has been elected as a president in free elections because he was a tough cookie at the time. People liked him, but he turned into a dictator. Okay, he turned into a dictator and a drug dealer.
Well, that's what happens. Power corrupts totally.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what happens, and what happened is that one example how he became such a big dictator is that they had those, you heard of that Chinese trying to build a canal down there.
Yeah. I mean, they were going to build it before Panama. Yeah.
This plan has been on.
Since the 19th century.
Yes. So the Chinese, there was this businessman. He had financing in place, but what happened? The poor guy, he had $10 billion, give or take, and he lost $9 billion in stock market. So he only had $1 billion, and if you have $1 billion, nobody wants to work. Nobody takes you serious. Okay. So those powers that you call them, they didn't want to talk things, and that plan fell apart. But anyhow, while he was pushing for the plan, everything was in place. They signed the agreement, and they were trying to do something. And some people, the tribes and the native people, they rebelled. They said, we don't want that. It's going to ruin this and that. So there was a lot of protests. And get this. I was really shocked when I heard that. They had about 500 people. You know what's 500 people died in protest? And I was not aware there was no news in the States that so many people died. So anyhow, for them, it's like not a big deal because in that part of the world people are dying and protests are going on. It's not a big deal. So he's the one that killed 500 people and that part fell apart. So in that country, I don't know why. It's a good question. Where should help because these people are trying to do well. They just try to help it to get rid of this dictator guy. But I guess he's good. He helps the CIA and helps, he's a drug dealer. He's a CIA, they're all the same.
Yep.
Some piece of shit. So that's no bullshit. But it's a nice country.
during the 70s, when we were doing the housing thing in New York, there was another tremendous throng of people from Central America trying to get and all that. And so I got to know a lot of them. And so we put people, hundreds of people, families, up in buildings that were abandoned out there, in Red Hook and Bed-Stuy and Brownsville and Lower East Side, and no one cared, no one knew, there was no need. So we had gardens and we were feeding everyone. But once we were successful, and once we had like 500 people in nice, warm, dry places where they could then get jobs and do the American dream, that's when we got attacked.
Really?
Yeah. When we were on the down, when we started, we had our own credit union and we had our own schools and our own food, and we got severely attacked. And and we had buildings for everybody, and there were the young anarchists. Oh, we should fight them. And I said, these guys got guns. Oh, we'll get. And I said, no, they got real guns. You forget about it. So how we got over on the powers that be, when they sent in the bully boys, they cut us up during the day because people could watch. But at night, they would force everyone to stay indoors. And they'd pick on a building, crash in the door, and beat everybody up. So during the day, over a 6-month period, we had the Nuevo Rican Poetry Alliance. The women go read poetry to the men, and after 6 months, there wasn't a New York City cop who would beat us up because we read them all poetry. I love those people. And that's the only way you can really win against these guys. You can't really go up against them. You can't go toe to toe. The only thing you can do is go get yourself a good lawyer, which we have good lawyers. And it's the only way. And then they tried to bring in freaking mercenaries, But there was a bar near us that was a bar for mercenaries. So we had our own mercenaries killing. I don't know about killing, but fighting the other mercenaries. It was pretty. It was like being in Beirut in 1980. It was pretty amazing.
Hey, let me talk to you about something else, man. That was I was exposed to something brand new. Okay, get this.
Hey,
It's a shock to my system.
I know we've
but
already talked to you about the
understand
issue
that,
with
okay?
recording in here while
I
sharing.
was,
That's why I'm like in the corner with the light behind me.
This is her section.
Okay.
This is her computer, so
Right.
you're making it very difficult for her to even do her job.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to ask you not to record while she's here,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Hold on. Well, kids.
I have to unplug you because I've already told you can't plug in there.
Well, I did it this way so it's not
I know
unsafe.
it's not the fact of the cord. There's very sensitive information on these computers.
Okay. An outlet.
Unfortunately.
Okay. Well, they're making it tough for me. Well, kids, I'm going to have to say good night. Tomorrow I'll try and come from another place. I guess I'll have to be there more than here. They don't want me here. Okay, so I'm off there. You stay there, kiddo. I'm just logging out.